So, good morning, everybody. A really big welcome to the Online Collective for October. If this is your first time and you don't know who I am or my colleague is, my name is Mark Raymond. I am the VTCT Development Manager for Barbering, and my colleague is.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I am Nicola Steinbach and I am the Business Development Manager for hairdressing. So welcome if this is your first time joining us, and welcome back if you have been here before.
Brilliant. So we are going to get this show on the road. Just before we do that, I just want to say hi to Amanda Kavanagh. This is her first time on the collective as well. She says thanks for providing this training. Morning, Amanda. You're more than welcome, and yeah, I hope you really get some benefit from this. And also Mary, who's from Scotland, Nicola. So yeah, your area of the woods. So as I said, big welcome to the Hair and Barbering Collective, October 2024.
So what have we got planned for you guys today? So as you can see here, we've got, as always, two fantastic guest speakers. And our first speaker, really excited about this. We have Lewis Driver, who is from Avalon and is representing Denman. And you'll hear more about Lewis shortly. And then our second guest speaker is our very own VTCT Head of UK Sales for the North, Claire Pye. We will also be giving you the updates on the tour. Liz has spoke about the fact that she's attended the tour. You may or may not be aware, we're about to start next week and we are super excited. So we've got a lot of information to share with you on the tour. And then we will be giving you the information on our next meeting, which, can you believe it, is the last meeting of 2024, because it's the end of November, and as you may be aware, we don't run the collective through the December period. So yeah, packed agenda, and I hope you enjoy it. And as I say, if you want to ask any questions, pop them in the chat, or please, our guest speakers would love to hear from you as well if you want to ask any questions or pass any comments as well. So over to you, Mark.
Fantastic. So I'd like to give a really big welcome to our first guest today. That's Lewis Driver. Lewis is a superstar for Avalon, and also today is representing Denman. Denman is one of our live collective supporters, and we have got a very special announcement after Lewis today. So keep your kind of eyes peeled for that one. I'm not really going to say much about Lewis, to be fair, because Lewis is going to share his story with us. We're really excited to have you on today, Lewis. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand this directly over to you.
Okay, right, let's do this. Don't look at my messy desktop, people. Hang on a second. There we go. Okay, can you see that? Is that working?
Yeah, that's all good, Lewis.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm Lewis Driver. As Mark said, I work for Avalon, and I'm here today on behalf of Denman. Avalon is a hair care brand, pride themselves on being the science of hair care, and it's mainly targeted and for the type 3 and 4 curly hair types, which I will get into during the presentation. A bit about my background: I've been doing hair now for 17-ish years. I started a little bit late, went to college about 21, did my MBQ, all of the things, and then qualified, started working part-time in salons, and then fast forward to now, I'm full-time freelance. I still work in salon about 3 times a week. I work at Bleach London in East London. I also educate for Avalon, as I said, and other brands. And then I also do session work as well, which has been a newish thing for me. So done a couple of seasons at Fashion Week, some editorial stuff, works with some music artists. And I guess the whole point of me being here is because I specifically focus on a lot of curly hair types. I guess also this is important for me because when I take myself back to college, like all those years ago, like I didn't really have an experience where I was dealing with many people or coming into contact with many people that looked like me or had hair like me, albeit like my hair is actually curly. I just keep it short, but that's personal preference. And so I think it's really important that I carry on this conversation and continue this education so that people that are teaching the new hairstylists coming up or the new colorists or the new barbers are able to give them information and give them a fair start. And the main aim is to keep the industry inclusive. So less about that, and I will start my presentation. So as I said, I'm here on behalf of Denman and Avalon. So my objectives for today, and I'm going to keep it quite brief because I don't want to go on too much because you will get copies of the slides, and it would be really nice at the end if you are able to ask me questions while I'm here. I will put my contact details up as well, so feel free to reach out if you would like, but I think it'd be nice while I'm here, if there's time, I can answer any kind of burning questions that you may have. So I'm going to try and touch on understanding curl patterns and hair types, identifying key characteristics, porosity, density and texture, products 101, equipment basics, and then the overall thing for me is about gaining an understanding of language and vocabulary when we're talking about curly hair, purely because I feel like there's a lot of buzzwords out there that people use, but sometimes they may be wrong or they might not be the right thing, or we use the word texture, for example, but what does that actually mean? So I think it's, it's going to be hopefully helpful for you moving forward. So what makes hair curl? I'm not going to play this video because I don't want the system to crash on us. But what I will do is I'll put the link in the chat at the end so that you can watch this video. It's like 2 minutes long. You've probably seen it before, you might not, but it's quite informative and it just sets the scene in that regard. So the first thing that I want to speak about is curl pattern or type. The reason I put that is because it's the two names or two phrases that you might hear, which is curl pattern or type. So the curl pattern is how curly or wavy the hair looks. So I don't know if you've ever heard type 1, type 2, type 3, or type 4, but as you can see on the screen, type 1 is your straightest hair, which lies flat with little to no volume. Type 2 is then your wavier type, usually a soft S. Type 3 is your defined springy curl, or type 4 can be a really tight, coily curl. Sometimes it's hard to identify hair straight out the gate because it may have been stretched, or it may be 2 or 3 days since washing, or it may have been tied back. So sometimes curls in particular can be elongated. So a little tip is that sometimes if you just spray a little bit of water or get the hair wet, it reverts and you can see the curl pattern or the definition of the curl a little bit clearer, and it helps you make a decision. The subtypes within curl patterns are A, B, and C. So you might hear I have type 2A hair, or I might have 4C hair. And so the A, B, and C refer to I call it a frequency, but it depends, but how frequent the curls occur on that strand. So A would be the widest or the biggest space between the curls. B would be medium, and then C would be your tightest. Is that making sense? Cool. Okay, so here we've got a nice visual, and as you can see, you've got your x-axes and your y-axes, you've got your A, B, and C down the side, 2, 3, and 4 across the top. And as you can see, you've got your A2, A3, A4, B2, 3, and 4, and so on. And that starts to then give you an indication as to how tight or how loose a curl may be, visually what that curl might look like. And again, you've got at the bottom A, B, and C, which is the diameter of the curl. So I guess the only thing to note then with curly hair as well is that we all know that hair comes out of a follicle, but the follicle shape determines the curl, essentially. I mean, some people know that, some people don't, but I think it's a really interesting thing and point to raise, because what can also happen is over time, especially in women, hormones can affect the follicle shape. So it's not uncommon to, for example, come across a woman that may have a curly or a curlier type of hair at the front, and it can be bone straight at the back. And sometimes we're not really sure what to do with that or why that happens. And most of the time it is to do with hormonal balance, but it also can be just how it is. You know, some people's hair just grows like that. It's like somebody with excessively curly or really curly hair can have a tighter curl, for example, in the nape, and it can be very loose through the top. But not everybody has one consistent curl pattern on the head all the way through. So texture. The reason I brought texture up is because we all think we know what texture is, and a lot of the time we hear texture expert or, you know, it's textured hair, but actually it's curly hair and it has a texture. And I know this is really basic stuff, but texture is the width or thickness of the strand of hair. So when we're thinking, or when I think about texture, it's important that I remind myself and remind others that texture types are either fine, medium, or thick. I put coarse in there, and the reason I put coarse in there is because if you look at some textbooks or like some things online, the word coarse is used quite frequently. And whilst coarse can feel like a texture, or you can, that's probably the strand that you're going to feel the most. The association with the word coarse in the curly community and for people with curly hair can be quite offensive. And if you look up the word coarse in the dictionary and read what it says, it isn't very nice. And so I think that when we are talking about curly hair and we are teaching people about curly hair, especially when people haven't had an experience of it, I think it's important that we get it right from the beginning. And we're also using language that feels a lot more appropriate and that feels kind and that's not going to offend anybody. Care tips. It does say here, obviously, coarse hair. I should have changed that. But it says fine hair benefit from deep conditioning and minimal combing, whilst thick hair needs extra moisture and sealants, products to stay healthy. The next bit is just a little bit of a diagram, just explaining, you know, fine, medium. So we all know what that looks like. But I think with curlier hair types, because they're voluminous on appearance, I think we need to be better at looking with our hands, so feeling the hair strands rather than just thinking, oh, that looks really thick and voluminous, that must be a thick texture. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes, and a lot of the time, curlier hair types, so your type 4 hair, or some people call it afro hair, which again I'll speak about later, is actually probably one of the finest textured hair and probably one of the weakest textured hairs. So it's just, you know, it's that kind of like, we know all of this information. I think it's just that we need to apply it to different hair types in a different way and just be a little bit more aware and a little bit more sensitive. Porosity, again, we know what porosity is. We taught very early on how to do a porosity test, but porosity is a bit more important within curly hair purely because we do deal with a lot more high porosity hair. And that's largely because, like a lot of curlier hair types, the cuticles pretty much open already. So it's going to absorb things quickly, but also lose the moisture really quickly. So your porosity, as I said, is how well your hair absorbs or holds on to moisture. It's largely determined by the condition of the hair's outer layer, known as the cuticle. Low porosity is harder to get moisture into, so we use a lightweight product. Normal porosity balances moisture well and needs occasional deep conditioning. High porosity absorbs moisture quickly and loses it fast. So if I was to kind of assign a hair type to the different porosity types, your type 1 or 2 would be your lower porosity, so you're straight or wavy. Normal porosity is usually like a 2 leaning into 3, and then your high porosity is going to be kind of like your 3 Bs and Cs, and then your 4 A, B, and C, which if you look back at the chart in your own time, you'll kind of start to understand. And then here we've got a visual. So your low porosity, very tightly packed cuticle. Normal porosity is a looser cuticle, and high porosity is an open cuticle. And then density. And I think density, again, is an interesting one because also we all know what density is. But again, I think with curlier hair types, as a visual, most of the time the hair can look quite dense. And then again, we're just making a visual assumption or a visual assessment without actually feeling the hair or looking at the hair. Low density scalp can be visible through the hair, so we probably want to use volume boosting product. Medium density, probably 50-50, offers flexibility. High density, lots of hair that can feel full and heavy, great for layers and heavier product. However, when we're looking at curlier hair types, again, we need to remember, visually, the hair can actually look quite full and voluminous, but also if somebody has a darker skin tone, you're not going to see scalp necessarily through or when you look at that person. So again, we have to be better at feeling or seeing with our hands and looking at the hair and feeling it and seeing whether or not we feel that that hair is low, medium, or high density. And then you can check, it says here, check if the scalp without moving the hair, but I think sometimes we need to actually feel the hair and move the hair about to see. Also, with curlier hair types, it's always good to check napes and hairlines, because particularly with type 4 A, B, and C hair, which is like what we call afro hair, you can have maybe traction alopecia, or the hairlines and the napes can be quite thin or tightly coiled, so it looks like there's less hair. So it's about having a better look and getting a feel for what you've got in front of you, basically. So again, visual on density. Now, again, these are just the characteristics and some key points for you to take on board when dealing with the different types of hair. And obviously, you've got a visual to A, B, and C. This, again, I mentioned earlier, but the hair is texturized, characterized by a loose wave or S. The hair can also look straight when wet, which again is something to note, because when it comes to cutting wavy hair, there's always a debate that clients have with me about whether or not they need a curly cut, right? But sometimes I think that it's about treating each like individual as a case by case. I feel like most of the time when I've got a wavy client, unless it's leaning more into a curl, that I'll cut wet. I just think it's easier. But some just like the experience of having a curly cut. When I say curly cut, a lot of the time I'll start a curly cut dry, because then, because of the volume of the hair and how the hair looks, I want to work with it in its natural or as close to natural state as possible. This hair type is the most commonly found in all ethnic groups. So with your kind of wavier hair, it's more likely that you'll find it on, you know, Caucasian, Asian, Indian. Do you know what I mean? You can get it right across the board. Type 2A, thin, barely there waves, easily straightened. Type 2B, more defined with slight frizz, harder to straighten. Type 2C, thick, defined waves, some curls, prone to frizzing. And then I've put at the bottom, there's some care tips there, which I've got a product kind of directory at the end that you can look at, but would use lightweight products like gels or mousses for definition without weighing the hair down, avoiding heavy creams. So again, when it comes to forming curls, I think that's an important thing to note, that a lot of people that have a curl or a wave in their hair naturally think that they need really, really heavy products in order to support the curl. But I think when you've got a wave or a finer hair type, less is more, and I'm more prone to go with a foam or a mousse and avoid the heavier products like it says. And these are just some examples in real life of kind of wavier hair types on males and females, just so you can get a feel for what they may or may not look like. And again, depending on how many days since the hair's been washed, wavy hair can look straight. So it's just bearing that in mind. And then we've got type 3. So these are more like your corkscrew curls. They're kind of, this hair can look wavier when wet. So because of the moisture, it'll weigh it down. And it's the one that looks the most shiny and often most voluminous. And I think that's another point to raise, is that because of the curls in a strand of hair, the curls in a strand of curly hair, but also the cuticle being open, curlier hair types are actually less reflective. So by default can look dull. So when people are talking about their hair not having shine or lacking luster, sometimes it's just because of the natural reflect of that curly hair and that it doesn't reflect light well. So you can check whether it's like a build-up by doing a little bit of a hair scrape, or, you know, you can scrape the scalp, because sometimes people think that it's just dull hair, but maybe there is a buildup, or maybe it's just that they need to use products that are going to support the shine, like serums and oils. So 3A, larger, looser curls. Your 3B is more tighter. And then your 3C is the more coiled, dense curl. These hair types lend themselves better to leave-in conditioners and gels, because when we're forming curls, we need to also seal the outside to stop them fraying or frizzing. I say fraying because, again, frizz can be a little bit of a contentious word with some clients because they don't like it. And so the reason I say fray is because, to give you a visual, curls are like shoelaces, right? And you know the end of the shoelace that has the plastic bit on. Your products are that piece of plastic. So if you don't put product on curly hair, if you remove that plastic bit at the end of the shoelace, it frays. And that's the same for a curl. If you don't seal it down, it will fray. So when people come to you and they're saying, oh, like I'm really battling with frizz, or my curls won't hold, and then you ask them what products they use, they'll say, oh, I don't really use anything, or I'm just using a leave-in conditioner, or I just leave my conditioner in. Then there's no styling aid there, there's no support. So it isn't going to hold the curl. So that's something to bear in mind. And then some examples of your type 3 A, B, and C curly hair. And again, I put the person in with the short hair because I think it's really important to see it at different lengths, because a lot of the time we just see curly hair as being long and voluminous and thick, but actually it can be worn short too. And then you've got your type 4 coily hair. Now, I've said afro a couple of times, and it is a buzzword, but it's just being mindful that like afro is an actual hairstyle, which is kind of like your round, the kind of like quintessential afro shape. That is what afro is. Afro hair is type 4 or coily or excessively curly. And again, it's just about being mindful of that language. And when you are talking to someone that may have type 4 hair, maybe, moving forward, you just use type 4 or excessively curly or coily, because again, it can be a little bit of a contentious word. But the characteristics of small type coils to zigzags, and it can have a lighter appearance, a bit more fluffier, and it's actually one of the weaker hair types. It can also look a lot shorter than it actually is. And I think when you start to get your hands in type 4 or coily hair, if you pull it out, you'd be surprised how much length is actually there when you start to pull it out. Type 4 defined small coils, type 4B, zigzag pattern, less curl definition and more prone to dryness. And then type 4C is very tight, dense coils, low definition, high shrinkage. All of the type 4 hairs are very or notoriously dry, because that hair type specifically is the cuticle is pretty much open all of the time. So a lot of the time, it's about putting moisture in and using products that are going to really help to hydrate and moisturize the hair. And a lot of the time you'll find that that is on a daily basis. It's also, just to add there, there's a common misconception that people with type 3 and 4 hair know how to do their hair. And that's not the case. Because if somebody's coming into a salon or into the college or, speaking to you, they're coming to you because you're the professional, you're going to be the professional, and they feel that you are able to support them with their hair. So I think if nothing else, just having this information is just going to give you better understanding and language. Even if you don't feel comfortable doing the hair, just being able to talk to somebody about their hair type and use the right words will make them feel seen. And then even if it's about signposting or referring on, you're doing it in the best possible way. I just wanted to add that in. And then I guess with this hair type, going back to the care, it's layering products up, such as leave-ins, creams, deep conditioning products, and things that are going to help retain the moisture and avoid breakage. This hair type in particular is notorious for breaking. It can break very, very easily. And so again, just to give you another example, a lot of the time I will get colour clients that have type 4 hair, and they are petrified. They want their colour, they're there for that, but they're petrified about having colour because they've had a bad experience. And a lot of the time it's because, again, visually it looks thick. Most of the time it's quite dark, and so then people naturally opt for a higher percentage of peroxide or a stronger product or an excessively high lift bleach. But actually you can lift and you can color this hair a lot easier, lower and slower, because you're not battling with a really flat, tight cuticle. So little things like that to bear in mind. And then obviously aftercare, again, if the hair's already dry, then we're drying it out with a colouring service. It's about giving proper aftercare and recommendations for products that are going to keep that hair healthy and extra moist because it's been dried out. And these are some examples of your type 4 hair. And so I work for Avalon, so I'm really privileged that I get this product stuff and products, and I have access to all of the products all of the time. But I wanted to give you a list that doesn't have any names of products on it other than what the product is. And then on the next page, I've given you like some of my favorites. So you can, they might be things that you can research further yourself or, purchase and have a go with. But I think basics when dealing with curly hair types, you always want a sulfate-free where possible shampoo because it's gentle, it's a non-drying cleanser, and it preserves natural oils. It's not going to strip all of the natural oils out, because we all know that natural oils are about lubricating and keeping the hair lubricated and the scalp lubricated. And so if you've got a hair that's naturally dry, you've got a curl pattern that doesn't allow the sebum or the oil to travel all the way down the shaft to keep that hair lubricated, then the last thing you want to do is wash out any oil from the hair completely. And I know people think, oh, but greasy hair, but actually we all need a little bit of natural oil in there, Moisturizing conditioner, really, really important. I also think it's important to note here that curls are made in the sink, or curls are made in the shower, or they're made at the point of washing. And with curly hair, it's really important that we leave conditioner on a little bit longer than we would straighter hair types. And that's not because it just needs a bit of time to penetrate the cuticle, but also when you work conditioner through wet curly hair, you start to build the curl at that point. So what's going to happen is if you're building the curl there while the conditioner's in, then when you come to style, you're going to get a better result. Also, a lot of the time there's more hair, or you're dealing with more hair, so you need the conditioner to sit, but you also need time to work the conditioner through all of the hair. It's not as easy as just whacking a little bit on, combing it through. You've got to probably, in some cases, section the hair into 4 and approach each section like a head of hair and condition each section. Am I going all right for time?
Yeah, we need to start wrapping up now, Lewis. Yeah,
Oh my God,
you're absolutely brilliant, but
okay, so
just because of time, yeah.
Okay, that's why I just aware. Okay, cool. So I won't talk anymore about the products, but they're there and you've got them on the sheet. And then here are some of the ones that I use in the salon. Now, not all products are suitable for all clients. The Keracare, just to point out, is the professional range from Avalon, and that would be your sort of like in salon. And then you've got the As I Am, which is more suited for natural hairstyling, your type 4s. And then some of the KC by Keracare would be your type 3. But again, like anything in the industry, it's not one size fits all. So it's about experimenting and playing with things and finding what works for you. Last but no means least, equipment. And that's why I'm here, because Denman. And so what I've done here is I've put some of my favorites for working with curly hair. On the left-hand side, I've got brushes, on the right-hand side, combs. The detangling brush, the head hugger, and the original rose styler, some of my absolute favorites. And then on the other side, we've got, the pintail comb, essential. But then also I put in there the D17 and the DC11, the Afro pick and the wide tooth comb, really important for when working with curly hair. Also, college kit, I got sent one of these. It's now in the salon. It is amazing. I was also fortunate enough to get given a very similar kit for Fashion Week because we were sponsored by Denman, and it is really, really good. And you're halfway there with that for starting to work with curly types of hair. And then last but no means least, questions, which I don't believe we have time for. So you might have to reach out to me separately.
No, we can take a few questions.
Okay. Okay.
Can I just first of all just say from Kirsty, she's teaching. This is our first collective, and she teaches barbering at Bodmin. So a big welcome to you, Kirsty. Mary said very informative. Love the terminology, coily. So yeah, that's brilliant. So are there any questions for Lewis? Lewis, while that's happening, can I ask you to stop sharing your screen?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
So I've put my contact details at the
Oh
back.
yeah, fantastic.
You'll get you can have the slides or you'll get the presentation. So yeah, but that is, I'll copy them into the conversation as well. Is that okay? Are we out? Am I out?
That's absolutely brilliant. Yes. Okay, so we will be sending. Yeah, Jude says, great, thank you. So you will be getting Lewis's details, so you can kind of follow up with him. He does workshops at colleges, in salons. He's available for theory as well as practical sessions as well. So if you want to contact him, are you able to put your details in the chat there, Lewis?
I will copy that last slide and then I'll paste it in like just the information, like my contact details in and stuff. I'll do that. But yeah, and also even if it's just like a random question that you feel, you can send me a DM or an email. Like I'm always happy to answer when I get a chance. But also just want to say lastly that, like, you know what, if you've never dealt with curly hair or done curly hair, that's also fine. And there's only one way to do, and it's just to start, you know what I mean? As long as you're honest with yourself, with the client about, or the student about what you know and what you can offer, that's the best way, isn't it? You know?
Brilliant. Lewis, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, to be fair, we could have you, I think, on for the whole day, and we'd still be learning stuff. So really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.
No problem. I mean, it's a big subject. Like I was sort of like cramming it all in. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Normally, I've got a day or like 6 or 7 hours with people, but yeah, I mean, yeah, anything's not clear, come back to me. But yeah, no, it's been great, and thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And people are saying that they're going to get your details, and a big thank you
They
to
should
Lewis.
be there now in the chat. I've just put them in. So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lewis.
All right, no worries.
Just to say that Lewis today has been representing Denman. And Denman has done a very special offer for us, and that is that they are offering as a prize draw a whole styling college kit. That was the one that you saw that Lewis referred to. I know that he also does use other tools as well, but the Denman college kit is a prize that we're giving away today. Denman are. So if you want to, it's a free draw. Put your details in the page that the QR code relates to, then just scan that QR code now, and then you will be able to enter into the draw to win that college styling kit. Brilliant. So massive thank you to Lewis again. If you want to win that kit, scan the QR code. If you can't do that right away, obviously you will be getting the follow-up to today's event as well. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to stop sharing my screen, because I'm going to hand back over to my colleague, Nicola. Nicola, you're still on mute.
Oh, epic fail. I've never done that, I think, in 2 years of collectives. I was just echoing Mark's sentiment to say thank you so much to Lewis. I think that was an extremely informative session. I think the hairdresser in me could have listened to Lewis all day. So thank you again. And probably just worth pointing out that the opportunity to win the Denman Styling Kit will still be available if you're watching this afterwards on a follow-up. So as long as you've registered, even if you're not here today, please make sure you scan the QR code. Great, so now time for our next guest speaker of the day. And to frame what we're doing today, if you were with us last month on the collective, we did a workshop with our very own Mark, and we are kind of starting to look at wider, what are you as a community, what challenges are you facing, how as an awarding organisation can we work with you and help you understand and kind of listen to you of what your challenges are out there and how we can help you with solutions. And that's why I've invited on our guest for today, who is the head of UK sales for the North, Claire Pye. You may or may not already be familiar with Claire Pye because you are from all over the country on here. So I'd like to welcome you, Claire. And if you could just start by telling us a little bit, for those of you who don't know, a little bit about you, what's your background and what do you do at VTCT?
Yes, thanks, Nicola. And no pressure at all following Lewis, is there? It's like... So good morning, everybody. As Nicola said, I am the head of UK sales for the North. So I've been with VTCT Group for just coming up for 3 years. I'm extremely lucky in that I manage a team that is basically from Bristol upwards. So it's a very big North. And that means that I do deal with centres in Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland, as well as England. My background is I was an apprentice hairdresser, so 31 years in hairdressing. I did an apprenticeship. I then moved into work into an FE college. So I worked in a college for 23 years. And whilst I was at the college, I also worked for a different awarding body as well. So a lot of experience of assessment and education, but also a hairdresser at the heart of things.
And what do you do at VTCT? Sorry, you
So at VTCT, like I say, I manage a team of key account managers, and what we do is we obviously support centres with their curriculum planning, how they can enhance their curriculum, but also being able to contribute with what the national trends is, because it's very, very isolating being in your own centre, seeing what you're just doing, and not a lot of people get the opportunity to go out and see what's happening out there. So we can bring that knowledge into all of our centres as well.
Yeah, so let's get started then. So what are you seeing? What are the delivery challenges that you are seeing out there at the moment?
Yeah, I think if we look across the whole of the nation, so particularly in Northern Ireland, we are seeing some changes within their full-time provision and their apprenticeship provision as well. Up in Scotland, so I do key account manage all the centres in Scotland alongside Nicola. So I pretend I'm half Scottish half the time as well. So it's lovely to see some of our Scottish centres on. Obviously, there's issues with the funding that's attached to the apprenticeships up there, but also the funding cuts that have been going across the whole of the colleges in that area. Wales, we have got Nikia on this call, who is our key account manager for Wales. And there, what we are seeing is a lot of introduction of higher level beauty that's coming through. But again, on that apprenticeship market and with hairdressing, just seeing some struggles. And then in England, we've obviously got the qualification reform that's coming through. So that's causing a lot of uncertainty. I think outside of the government changes, what we are seeing is a demographic of students that are coming through that aren't particularly, as we say, ready for work. So not everybody, most people can't get a job till 16, so they don't have the opportunity like I did to start in a salon at 13. They don't really know what the industry is about, so we are struggling with that in some areas, getting them onto apprenticeship straight away at 16. But then also, like I said, just that whole array of challenges that students are coming through with. So whether that's anxiety, whether that's literally not being able to do more than 2 hours, she says, communication skills are lacking because they're not necessarily coming out of the bedroom and moving away from the phones. And in this industry, what we're trying to do is give people a qualification, but also get them fit for industry as well and make them professional. So yeah, we are seeing across the nations a lot of challenges. I think obviously we blamed the COVID years, but what we are seeing now is a demographic of students that are going to be coming through for the next few years at least, I think.
Yeah, and actually in the chat here, Mary, who is from West Lothian, I think, has said that there has been lots of challenges since COVID, which you have touched on there. And I should add, if anybody does have any points that they want to add about challenges that they're facing, or are echoing what Claire is saying, please drop them in the chat, because we can add that into the dialogue that we are doing. And I think, Claire, that, you know, when you talk about these challenges, these are things that are happening very regularly across the whole of the education landscape, aren't they? So it's thinking about, how do we overcome these things? What solutions? How can we kind of collectively think about tackling some of these challenges that people are facing at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have some of the ideas, but the people on the call are the people that are out there dealing with this day in, day out. But just a couple of things that we are seeing. The 14 to 16 provision, I think, is a massive gap in the market. Particularly looking at Scotland, there is a lot more interaction with students that are going into colleges for one day or half a day in that age bracket. Whereas in England, if we take that for an example, some pockets are really good at 14 to 16 and others aren't doing anything at all because the schools have basically shut down, allowing that interaction. I'm really lucky that I chair of a board of governors for a primary school, which means across the trust, I also deal with kids from 14 to 16, 4 to 16. So just seeing some of the challenges that are happening even at that young age, really. So I do think that 14 to 16 to market, the more that we can try and get that interaction with schools, and some of my centres, what they are doing is going in and delivering things like a mental health qualification, but it's not about the qualification, it's about the exposure to those people from the centres into that 14 to 16 provision to stop people, because there's a perception sometime in school of what hairdressing and barbering is about, and we need to break that and just open the eyes up to the students that are in there. So I think 14 to 16 is a really big one. It's a very hard one to crack, but it is something we are going to have to start looking at. And also it will then potentially allow more students to move into apprenticeship at 16 or into a higher level of study, because we've done some of that interactive and some of that intervention work with them, rather than just when they turn up in the September as they're turning 16. Leading on for that as well, I think the induction stroke lower level programs is a massive thing as well. So we are seeing centres that are moving away from a traditional diploma at a level 4, if we talk about Scotland, or a level 1 course, and thinking more about what they're delivering to basically enhance those wider skills. Because that thing is, if we can prepare those students, then they are going to pass the course in the end, really. So it's about looking at what we're doing at level 1 and sometimes removing a technical qualification and doing more of a thing that's about wider behaviours and attitudes. But obviously we can throw as much hairdressing or barbering or beauty alongside that as well.
Yeah. We've had a comment come in as well that maybe you could kind of help elaborate on a little bit. Mary again has said that it's really hard to get work placements with salons. There's there's probably a combination of things. We're aware of this ourselves, that there is a step change in the industry, isn't there? There's a lot more rent-a-chair, there's a lot more self-employed stylists, but also linking back to what you've just said about the individual, the learner, the profile of that learner has changed so much that perhaps when they are going into a salon work placement, they're maybe not having the best of experiences because they haven't developed all those softer skills yet. So there's that kind of disconnect with them being work ready, but also compounded by the actual ability to find work placements for students.
Yeah, I think, as you said, Nicola, we are as a company really working with bridging the gap between industry and education. And I think it's a two-way thing, really, where we need to open the eyes of key players in industry to the challenges that people have who are delivering, particularly in a college or a private training provider forum. But likewise, like you say, the other way as well. So gone are the days where we can all visit a trade show and log it as CPD hours. what we want to do. And again, as a previous curriculum head, I know of the challenges on budgets that are attached to professional development. So it's about opening the doors to industry and getting them into the college, but likewise, what can we give them in return, really? So there's a lot of work, I say, doing as a company that we're doing that, but it's just thinking about how are we involving these people within your establishment. So core design is really important, so that getting them to come along and you saying, right, well, this is what I need to deliver for the qualification, but actually, what would you expect for somebody coming out to you? And a lot of centres are doing more about that skills audit and what an employer would expect, so that when they do go out into a workplace, the employer's got something to judge them against as well. So it's not against the assessment of the qualification, but it's about that, right, these are the skills you're telling us this young person needs. How can you support us in developing that? It's about, like I say, getting people in to do guest speaking, to do some of that CPD. But a lot of these people out in industry potentially haven't got things like their assessors award or some of the regulated qualifications that are coming through. So it's a two-handed thing, that they can come and support your provision, but then you could then support them by getting them through their assessor's qualification or registering as part of the group that you're doing to get some regulated qualifications. So it's thinking, like you say, about what other things we can do. A lot of centres we are seeing are setting up education forums, or getting them to come along and talk about curriculum development. Myself and a few of the team are part of some of these college groups already, but we can't attend every single college meeting that's going on. So reaching out to your local employers and saying, right, please can you come in, be part of these forums, and then they have a voice in being able to decide what you're delivering alongside, like I say, that requirement of regulated qualifications. And here at VTCT, we're going to be doing some things to support that as well. So Nicola and Mark have done an amazing job of getting lots of industry people as part of the collective, for example. So we're saying to them, right, these are the centres that need some support in your area, and getting those kind of people to join the forums as well.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, this bridging the gap, it absolutely works both ways, doesn't it? Because I think ultimately, whether you're in a college, you're an apprenticeship provider, you're an employer, we all have the same, an award and organisation, we all have the same end goal, which is to create the future of our industry, aren't we? So we're all kind of needing to work together with that. And thank you for mentioning the collective there, because that is something that's such an important part of what we are offering as an award and organisation, because we're exposing students to, when we started the collective, it was very much just about lecturers and CPD. Now, if you've been part of them, and you'll hear more later, it's very much about engaging with the student. And actually something that we'd love to see more of is employers being involved in that as well, because there is so much great work goes on in the colleges. We know the challenges that all the teachers in the colleges are up against, and we know the great work that we do. So it's almost about shouting about that and encouraging your employer network to come along to collective events as well. Tell them about this, invite them on to this, so that they're kind of starting to see how together we're all working to create the future of the industry, aren't we?
I think it's, yeah, and I think the collective, I say to every one of my centres, and I know a lot of the key account managers do, you need to be putting that in your scheme of work. Once a month, you've got this interactive, or as we know, you can watch the recording afterwards, but you're bringing two key, I won't necessarily say main that, but two key industry players every month, that in a scheme of work or a scheme of learning, you've ticked a lot of boxes for a lot of people. Because if you then start to add up all those people that have actually been exposed into every centre, it's a really easy way of getting industry into your lessons on a monthly basis. And I know I spotted a comment regarding industry days as well, and taster sessions. Induction's a massive one. So what I used to do in my old centre is our induction week was actually delivered by employers. So literally they would come along. We wanted to talk about professional standards. We got our beauty supplier to talk about the professional standards. We wanted to talk about retail. We got our hairdressing distributor to come in, and they talked about retail. So rather than me blagging on going, this is why it's important, the actual people who they may aspire to be at the end of the 2 or 3 year course were the ones that were telling it from day one.
Yeah, and I think you spoke a lot there about the importance of getting the induction right and setting them up for the programme. I think that something that perhaps can be a challenge is the retention figures and that disengagement part the way through a programme, isn't it? Sometimes they kind of feel like, oh God, how much longer am I going to be doing this? When am I going to progress? And I think that industry connection really helps keep them engaged, thinking they can see an end goal. Because, you know, one of the comments earlier spoke about the challenge with getting placements in self-employed salons. Ultimately, career paths have changed so much now, haven't they? And the young person of today, that might be their aspiration to have their own business and become self-employed. It could be that they want to be an educator. There's lots of different things with it. So keeping them connected with industry and different aspects of industry would really help with retention as well, do you think?
Yeah, and as you say, I think it's opening their eyes as well, because we used to have a lot of students that sat down in front of us and just said they wanted the same career job, which wasn't a problem. But it was like, well, have you ever thought about this or that or the other? And once they leave you from that environment, they're probably never going to go back and do any training. So I think it's really important to prepare them, not for just where they think they might go after college, but where they might go eventually. I mean, I'd have never thought as a 14-year-old starting in a salon that I would end up in sales with the accounts that I've got, but that's just how pathways turn out. But yeah, I think very much that induction period and checking that retention is very difficult, but also we've got to be really good at IAG, because I think, talking about the demographic of students coming through, we are going to have a lot of students that are going to be sat down in front of you wanting to enroll that don't have a GCSE or an equivalent, but that doesn't actually mean to say that they can't cope with the level of programme. So induction is going to become even more of a really important thing to make sure we retain them, but also to make sure we've got them on the right course as well, whether that's a higher or lower level than we think they should be starting at.
Yeah. And I think just as we wrap this section up, everything that you've spoke about there is really everything that we do as a team at VTCT, isn't it? These are things that day in, day out, we talk to centres and support centres with. And as well as we're about to talk about the collective shortly, I just thought we'd take a second to just give a shout out to some of the further events that we've got planned, because I know we've got quite a wide audience here today, and I know that you've got quite a lot of events coming up. So do you just want to give a quick shout out to some of the future events that people can join here today?
Yeah,
as well?
I mean, obviously we've got the collectives that go on, but we've also got a whole series of regional events that we do as well. So some of the ones that are coming up, we've got a specific event for our private centres, so those centres that aren't necessarily getting direct funding down, and we've not had one of those for a year. We've got a couple of events up in Scotland. That one is on the new SVQs in hairdressing and barbering, and that's going to be an interactive workshop for people that are currently delivering or people that may want to deliver. And we've also in Scotland got a higher level beauty focus group as well, because we are developing some qualifications specifically at level 7 and 8 in the Scottish market that we really want centres to be involved with as well. And obviously across the national team, we've got events for the FE centres. So we do have at least one a term in each of the North and South regions, where it's a really good opportunity for people to come along and network, as well as, and I can spot Geordie on the call, we've got a whole series of surgeries as well that fit in with our apprenticeship market. But yeah, I think as well that the key of that, as you touched on, Nicola, everybody has got a key account manager, and if you don't know who your key account manager is, then please reach out to either myself or Nicola and Mark, and we can direct you to the right person, because people don't necessarily use us as much as we could do in that curriculum planning. And we are, as Mark said at the beginning of the call, really up for coming along, looking at what your plans are and just giving you a bit of insight of what other people are doing, and just basically being a critical friend of saying, well, have you ever thought about this?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time today, Claire, to join us. It's really, really great to hear your passion and how much information and knowledge that you have, that you are kind of keen to share with the collective team. If anyone has any questions or comments for Claire, then please drop them in the chat. But thank you, Claire, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So if anyone does have any comments or anything like that, or questions, please pop them in there. And you will also have all our contact details as well if you want to, as Claire says, reach out to us to discuss any things that we've talked about today so far. Okay, so moving on, you
Brilliant.
have back
Thank
to you,
you.
Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, brilliant spot there, Claire. Thank you so much. But equally as well, Claire said that, you know, she encourages her centres and her key account managers to really get people to come and join us on the collective. And what Nicola and I and Claire and Jodie and Sarah, we would all say to you, if you know, if you feel, for example, if you look at the two guests that we've had on this morning, if you've really got some value from this, can you please share that along with your colleagues to come and join us, because we are really about kind of working together with you to build, you know, not only the industry, but what you're doing in education, whether you're a private training provider or in further education as well. And please, as Claire also said, reach out to us. So we are here to help and support you, and we do genuinely mean that. So please reach out. So just to kind of give you some updates, as we've mentioned earlier, with the collective live. So we've added some new dates. We've got the ones that you can see up here through November. They are sold out, but we've added some new dates for the new year. And we also as well are waiting to confirm another date as well. And we will keep you updated on those. So the new dates for 25 are University College Birmingham in February on the 4th, North Kent College on the 13th of February, and then we have Reading College on the 12th of March.
If I could just add on if you go back to the other slide, Mark, please, a
Sure.
second. The sold out dates. So we start next week in Glasgow, West Lancs and Belfast Met. We do have a waiting list. So if you are not going to it, but really want to go to it, if you can, please email me and I will add you to the waiting list, because we have a maximum amount of spaces. Everyone registers. These all sold out very, very quickly, but life happens and people may have changed. So we'll be confirming all of the final numbers this week. So if you were keen to get a place and didn't get one, or for your students, or you have got some students coming but you need more places, please just reach out to me and I will make sure I get you added to the guest list for these. Sorry, thank you. And if you have been to a collective live before, you know that one of the key things, and Claire's just talked a lot about it there, is our objective of bridging the gap between education and industry. And a key part to that is in the partners that we bring, these industry partners. And this year we are super excited because we have some of the industry biggest hitters joining us this year. So we have Cloud9 on tour with us. We have Denman Professional, and you've just heard from Lewis representing Denman there, and you've just got a taster of what Denman are doing for us on the tour. And we also knew for 2024, we have a media partner, which is Hairdressers Journal. And I think that's testament to the commitment that we as an awarding organisation are making to bringing the industry to our colleges. And I think it's worth adding that you don't have to be a VTCT college to join the collective. We are absolutely inclusive, everybody, and everybody is welcome. So yeah, we're very excited about our partners for this year. We have a packed agenda. So one of the things, this is our third tour, if you want. Mark and I are seasoned tour goers now, and we have taken feedback from each of the events that we've done to help us shape what the events are looking like for this year. And essentially, as you can see from there, I'm not going to read it all out to you, but we are doing a much greater volume of hairdressing and barbering demonstrations. Fantastic presentation from Cloud9. And also something new for 2024 is the College Student Showcase, which is a fantastic opportunity for colleges to put their students up on stage. And we're really excited about giving them a platform because, as we've talked about, they're our future. So it's really exciting to have that new addition. And yes, we are making sure that everybody goes away with a goodie bag. There are competitions, there'll be giveaway prizes, and there will also be a Money Can't Buy prize from Cloud9 and also a really fantastic prize from Denman as well. So you have to kind of be at the event to be involved in that. But we are really super excited for the tour next week. So yeah, if you are coming, please come and say hi. We'll be looking forward to seeing you there. If you're not, please keep an eye on our socials. Hairdressers Journal are going to be posting live from the event, every event that we're doing. BTCT, we will also be posting live at the event, and then also following Mark and I on our socials as well.
So just to say a massive thank you to our guests, Lewis and Claire. It's been a brilliant event this morning. And as I said, just to kind of reiterate, if you've got colleagues, please share the next date with them. This will be the last meeting for 2024 because, as Nicola said earlier, we don't run it through December because we know everybody's busy. But we look forward to seeing you on Thursday, the 21st of November. Sign up for that. Come and join us. And also, as well, as Nicola was saying, that if, particularly with the waiting lists, if you want to reach out to either myself or Nicola, then you've got the email addresses there. You've also got our Instagram and LinkedIn accounts. Please follow us. We will follow you back. If you post any of your kind of work, we will always repost it and like it. We really want to kind of continue to build our community. So from myself, a massive thank you. We've really enjoyed this morning's session. And from Nicola,
yeah, thank you so much. If this was your first time joining us, I really hope that you've enjoyed the session. And thank you to everybody for coming. And a massive thank you to Lewis and Claire for being our guests today. So, and if you're watching us on recording, thank you also for taking the time to watch us. And we hope you have found it informative. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you.